What is up, everybody? Welcome back. We are so excited because today's episode is sponsored by our lovely friends at Tokyo Treat, and they have sent us another box of goodies for us to try for you all and to let you guys know our favorites from the box.
So for those of you who might not know what Tokyo Treat is a monthly pop Japanese snack subscription box. You'll get up to 20 exclusive limited edition and seasonal flavored Japanese snacks, including Japanese instant ramen and drinks that are only available in Japan for a limited time.
This month's monthly theme is Tokyo Snackcation. So let's hear a little bit more about that. Tokyo Treat invites you to journey through Japan's exciting and colorful capital city, Tokyo, which is also Tokyo Treat's hometown. This month's Tokyo Treat box is packed with delicious, sweet, and savory snacks inspired by the famous city. Get ready to explore this month's massive metropolis and experience Tokyo through this month's box. A few highlights from this box include some Kit Kat Royal Milk Tea, very fun, very British for Tokyo, Tokyo Shoyu Ramen, Koikeya Ume Chips, Pokemon Chocolate Marshmallow, and Melon Cream Soda. That sounds really good.
Both melon cream soda and a Pokemon marshmallow, I'm eating.
We love it. And we're really excited because we're actually trying to plan a trip together to go visit Tokyo IRL. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be a little while, but I think this will give us a good little sample of some of the snacks we might expect to see, especially in the summer in Tokyo.
We'll just have to take pictures and be like, "Doko desu ka? Sumimasen, doko desu ka?"
Before we dive in, we always want to point out the little booklet that Tokyo Treat likes to include. We have all been working on our Japanese in preparation for this trip that's coming up, but for anybody who has not or who still needs a little bit of help, the pamphlet is great because everything is printed in English for you to be able to know exactly what it is that you're about to eat. It also calls out any allergens or whether the snack may be suitable for vegetarians or not. So very good to take a look at this. And there's also a lot of fun cultural facts in here too. There's a lot of anime call-outs in this particular issue.
Oh look, it's Tanjiro.
We've got Tanjiro. We've got everyone's favorite, Gojo. We've got Monkey D. Luffy. We've got Pikachu. We've got it all. We've got Godzilla.
Itadakimasu!
Alright, so favorites?
This is a controversial yet brave moment for me. I think I kind of knew that this was coming, but I have to say the squid chips. Squid chips were so good.
He was munching on that the whole time.
I literally ate the entire bag.
I think my favorite was definitely the pie no mi, the little peach pies. But that's like not a big surprise, knowing that I loved the pear ones last time. But the ume chips were also really, really good.
I also really liked the peach tart stuff, but I'll say the Costella donut.
Again, thank you so much, Tokyo Treat, for this month's box. We're really excited to dig in, but let's dive into the episode. Konnichiwa. はじめまして。私は花です。よろしくお願いします。はい。
Hi, hi. Konbanwa.
Yeah, it should be konbanwa. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Hashira Half Hour, and I'm just eating up the two hot Hashiras.
I like that you call him the hot Hashira and he's like 3 inches tall here. He's sometimes itty bitty. Sometimes you just have to be a little guy.
He's just a little guy.
Hannah is definitely feeling the con burnout, as you can see.
We love to see it.
While I have squid breath over here.
Oh my god.
Thanks, Tokyo Treat.
Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, I am Emily, and I am having a great time here with my friends, minus Rui making an appearance in the living room earlier today. Not my favorite thing. That's all I'm going to say about that. You can read into that what you will. Brian?
Yeah, that's all I got.
Well, shall we dive into the episode then?
Let's do it.
Hi.
Hi. First of all, I would like to say that Tengen is absolutely gorgeous.
Agreed.
Mm.
With the eye patch.
If he is accepting applications for a 4th wife, that offer still stands.
Hi.
Hi. Hi.
Alright, all jokes aside, the episode starting off... Take this. I can't focus. Okay, this is gonna be a fun episode. Man. Starting off with him just kind of a montage of him beating up a bunch of side characters. How do we feel about that?
I mean, I kind of wished it was me, but without the actual working out part. No, I would have simply passed away.
Yeah.
And then conveniently woken up for the delicious lunch that his wives were cooking. But somebody's got to whip him into shape, and he's not even technically part of like the full training. He's like, I'm the pre-workout. Like, if you can't get past me, you are not ready for what's coming next. So honestly hysterical, but even funnier was when our boy joined them, which we'll get to.
Yeah, I remember specifically watching the first part, and he's like holding the stick in front of one of the dudes, and he can't even move, and he's like, move faster, move my stick. And I was like, damn son. They are being put through the works with this training, and honestly, I could use that in my life.
I'm telling you, it was a 1920s treadmill.
That's true.
Tengen Uzui invented the treadmill. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen.
Perfect.
Training demon slayers. Now you know what, the history of the treadmill is when you get on it at the gym this week. All right, my brain is not doing too great today. Yeah, I mean, some side characters are getting beat up. I would definitely be the guy falling down the cliff and probably dying. So,
yeah, we
there's
never
that.
cut back to him. I hope he's okay.
Actually, though,
I hope that guy's okay.
forgot about him for a second.
Poor dude.
NPC,
Yeah.
alas.
All these characters are with Tanjiro right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. But our main character shows up. And one of my favorite parts about this little moment here when he starts running up is Tengen is like super like yelling at these guys, and then he hears Tanjiro call, Uzui-san! And you can tell he's like, ooh, I know that voice. And then he looks and his eyes just instantly soften. Tengen the dad?
Tengen the dad. Tengen, I would say the single father, but he literally has 3 wives.
He is anything but a single father.
He is anything but a single father. Technically anything but a father, but definitely a daddy. So. There's our first TikTok. Oh, boy.
It feels like this is an appropriate time to drop my joke, so I'm going to do it now.
Please, by all means.
What do you call a demon with a content creation site?
I don't know. What do you call it, Brian?
OnlyFans.
But
OnlyFans.
That's a brother.
Would I pay for Tengens?
Yes.
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 Oh boy.
Oh, unhinged.
This
we are.
is going the same direction that Gojo episode was going.
Oh
no.
Listen, white-haired.
Beefy men. Actually, Gojo wasn't even beefy back then.
No, but white-haired meat.
Hannah did not realize what she said as it came out of her mouth. She's so red.
What was not on my 2024 bingo card was Hannah being the one to sexualize these men the most. Thank you, Mappa. Thank you, UFO table. Good?
She's literally crying right now. That's so funny.
I can't breathe. Oh, Lord. Did you get to answer the question?
I don't remember the
We
question.
were talking about Tanjiro showing up. He's actually a dad to the son.
Yeah. Tanjiro showing up, it's great. It's, honestly, like we're saying, we've said before, we're getting anime original content, and this is part of it, right? So this is really nice to see Tanjiro finally, fully recovered, as the title mentions. We talked about this. Is he ever fully recovered? That can't be determined. But nonetheless, it is great to see our boy show up for what is, we then get to peek through his POV into these training arcs and such like that. So it is really nice to watch Tanjiro come through. And I think their relationship really is different than everybody else's. We talked about, like, obviously we've done the Entertainment District arc, so, if you ever want to hear that again, go back and watch it and listen. But their relationship is just different. So kind of like Hannah mentioned, like, you can see his eyes soften immediately. I mean, yeah, they were like near death together. And, you know, those situations definitely go through it. Hannah's been there with me. She's driven in the car while I was the driver, you know?
I think we've all been there. While each other drives.
That's true.
That is not true. Emily handled the mountains of Flagstaff like no other.
I did not know we were taking the switchback route, and it was very beautiful, but it was very, very scary. I still apologize for every bump that we hit.
They were not your fault.
Well, the Civic handled it like a beaut. Back to Tanjiro. He is so cute. He is like so excited to see everybody at all times, and I think he's just so happy to be out of the hospital bed at this point. Again, literally the name of this episode being like, Tanjiro's recovered and on his way, or like something like that, and we're like, not for long.
When's it gonna happen? When's he gonna break another arm? Like,
my boy's a little bit clumsy, but also most of it's not his fault.
yeah.
Still, he's excited to get back into it, and he jumps back in even after being in the hospital for like literally months, better than everybody else that's at training. So
The main character, not an NPC.
Not an NPC.
The difference between the MC and the NPC.
Yes.
Same. I always loved the father Tengen to son Tanjiro. Like, you know how I'm like, Gyu's the big brother, Tengen's the father, even though he's only 2 years older than Gyu, so like that doesn't make any sense actually, but Tengen's such a dad. And kind of like you mentioned, like they literally almost died together, but also like Tengen saw Tanjiro not just like work hard, but also, you know, experience growth, and was like actually assisting and actually helping. And Tengen at the end of the day, like, kind of gave Tanjiro the win, as Tanjiro said at the beginning of Sword of the Village. So, and also he's alive because of his little sister.
Yeah.
You know, so I think he's not only just like proud and just like excited to see him again, but he's also like, he has a soft spot for him because he's like thankful for his existence, essentially. That's kind of, I read into that scene way too much, but just the instant soften in his eyes was just like, he cares so much about the little boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like you said, Tanjiro is eyes shining, cheeks blushing. He is ready. We get to see his little feet running while like at triple the amount of speed everyone else, while he's got a basket of rocks on his back because he's of course used to carrying things on his back, which he doesn't have to right now.
Things being Nezuko.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, of course. Which he doesn't have to carry around anymore, at least for now. He's ready. He's totally showing everyone else up, and they're all watching going, who is this kid? That's the main character.
Who is this kid? He's our son, and we're proud of him. Tear falls down the eye. No, I mean, Tanjiro showing everybody else up, not surprised, right? Because it's interesting, right? Like, we've seen how the disparity is between Zenitsu and Inosuke and, you know, Tanjiro, and like we know that they all have like a clear hierarchy and like their own power structure, but then you compare Tanjiro to like base level Demon Slayer and it is like no comparison. At later points in the episode, he's given extra work. That's the amount of where we're at. So it's really interesting to watch Tanjiro continue to grow, because there's a lot of shows, or there's just a lot of difficulty in a show when you have a character that's supposed to continue and grow a power level, Dragon Ball, where you just need to scale that so much where it's like, where's the end? Well, it doesn't matter because he's continually growing at a rate that makes sense. There you go.
Yeah. And he's happy too. Obviously, we've seen him grow so much since the first episode, and like pretty rapidly, and a lot of that was because he was kind of forced into it, which for this upcoming fight that we know is eventually on the horizon, like that's not necessarily a bad thing because he's obviously made it out okay, and so has Nezuko so far. So
It's been close a few times.
it's been a little close a couple times. But as good as he already is, he knows that he still has room to improve, which is a good mentality to have anyway, to constantly be improving on yourself as much as possible. So he's excited to be there, which I think also makes the difference in how well the training is going to take for him, because I don't think that the NPCs really want to be there either. Maybe on like a very shallow level they do, but I don't think that they fully understood what they had signed up for. And they're only at the first step.
They're at the first step, and you know, we as an audience know a lot more information than all of the characters really, because we're getting to see everything. And I think that's something as an audience we can sometimes forget, is like, oh, we are privy to this information because we get to watch it unfold. The Demon Slayers, except for Sanemi and Obanai, know nothing about this Infinity Castle, and you can only imagine that these hundreds of Demon Slayers that are being told to go train, they're, because of like just how important it is to keep Nezuko safe, they're not just blabbing about this to everyone, right? Now, we do hear that a few of them kind of know about it, but you would assume that this is pretty tight-lipped as to what is happening, because who knows, maybe there's someone in the Demon Slayer Corps working with the demons. You never know, and Kagaya is, of course, really, really smart. So there's probably plans and actions in place to make sure that, like, the information that these NPCs are getting is going to be very, very basic compared to what the Hashiras know, compared to what Tanjiro knows, compared to what we as an audience knows. And with that being said, we even get to see two of these, you know, side characters talking about going on patrol and wishing that they could, because it means that they get excused from training in the morning. Tengen listens in. We, of course, know that he was hearing it, and he probably is just determining that these two need a little bit more time because they're just not quite getting at it, right? And then we move into the scene where those two are on patrol. They are walking around. They do mention Nezuko here. So, like, there are people who know, kind of, but they clearly didn't really know what's going on. They're like, they're after this girl named Nezuko. They don't even obviously know that it's Tanjiro's little sister.
That's probably good, too,
Yeah.
because if anyone, like, let it slip in the wrong place or spot, like, who knows who's listening. So at this point, I imagine Nezuko's location is probably only known to, like, very few people.
Locked
would
away,
not speak about
up
it.
in a tower, guarded by a dragon, only to be rescued by her one true love.
Is that any
Shrek.
Thank you. Shrek references all day.
I knew that was a Shrek reference, but I was like, you said some listening in, so that brings me to the point of this. We see a eye that says the number 4 on it. We just killed Upper 4, didn't we? So what's going on?
Well, we did, but doesn't that technically mean that the ranks automatically shift?
But 5 and 6 are dead too.
That's true.
And there's no lower moon, so who
We
goes
also, to be fair, what we also saw 30 seconds later was literally the eye walking with legs.
there? Like the Hantengu.
It was like really creepy and serious for a moment. It was like very horror, like in the dark.
Yeah.
The kids playing the prank on him, like, oh, I hid the lantern so that you'd get spooked because you never know when a demon might pop up. And then we see like the upper 4 eye.
Yeah.
And then it did that, and I was like, okay.
Comedic relief.
Not that I would enjoy seeing that.
Unintentional
For what it's
comedic relief.
No. UFO table knew what they were. UFO table knew what they were doing with that little pitter patter.
Little feats.
I just like see someone in the studio literally just going like this to get the sound effect.
Low key, the Foley guys have like the best job. It's so
They do.
fun.
I've seen documentaries on like those sound effects. It's really interesting how they make those sound effects work. But yeah, I mean, we don't know who Upper 4 is, what their power is, what they're doing, but they definitely were there and they were listening in on that conversation where they mentioned Nezuko. But luckily, these two clearly didn't know where she was, what was going on. We don't know if she's still at the Butterfly Mansion. We don't know if she's been moved at all.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that, we'll get some kind of clarification on that soon. But kind of brings me to I think the information that's being passed around, while people need to know at least a little bit of what's going on, it's just very tight-lipped.
Yeah.
So that means that these Slayers just kind of, they might not really be giving it their all, because they don't really think that anything too crazy is gonna happen.
Yeah, because they're just not aware fully of, like, the enormity of what Nezuko conquering the sun means. They might not even know that that's what happened.
Yeah.
They just know that that Muzan is looking for her.
Yeah. I would say the conquering the sun thing would be a need to know.
Yeah.
And they don't need to know.
Yeah, it's really interesting too, because this entire sequence of them talking about it and like them not knowing was not even mentioned in the manga. Like this is all completely like brand new and original. So whether it be like the haha funny pitter patter of the feet or like the actual like eye watching them is all completely new. So that was a really cool scene to watch, just because we get to see maybe what could have been in the manga, or like what Gotoge is adding to the story now that they have a chance to. because the anime obviously takes a little bit more time to produce and has to take more effort into it, so they have a little bit more time to play around with it. But going forward with that, really, every Demon Slayer has their own motivation, so should they need to know what's going on to want to finish demons off? No, they shouldn't.
Yeah, and we've seen in the past some of these Demon Slayers are kind of up to no good and not really fighting for good things. They're just trying to make money. Like we saw that guy in Mount Natagamo that just got slashed by Rui. But that's another conversation for another day. So definitely we're still getting a lot of build up here, but this episode is pretty chill. We've got a lot of training going on. I'm going to bounce around a little bit because I didn't get an opportunity to really write down talking points, but I did want to talk a little bit about the wives.
Yeah.
And their conversation with Tanjiro. You know, they also are very excited to see him, kind of in the same way, and Hinatsuru mentions this. She says, if anyone that was there was not there, she doesn't think that the four of them would have been able to see that sunrise. And it really just puts into perspective what they're doing, you know, and how thankful these wives are for someone like Tanjiro and someone like Zenitsu and Inosuke, even though they still don't know their names because they call them the yellow-haired boy and the boar-head boy. And they have no issue calling him Tanjiro-kun or Kamado.
To be fair, they didn't spend as much time with the other two.
Yeah, Tanjiro was fighting side by side Tengen for a lot longer than the other two, but it's really good to see these wives come back and they have a hand in this. They're making the food, they're telling Tanjiro about, you know, Tengen even clearly wanting to still fight, calling out in his sleep, and it almost sounds like he has a little bit of remorse for retiring because he wants to see Muz undefeated, but he like physically can't really be a part of that, which is why he's enjoying doing this, I think. So really enjoyable to see the interactions and just how much they also are like moms to Tanjiro, really.
And I think this is what Tanjiro needed in his life, really. Always having to be the bigger brother or always having to be the older sibling. Like, there's no one to take care of you. And now that Nezuko is wherever she is, because that's also something that's never told in the manga, like where she was during this time. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one, but now Tanjiro gets to focus on himself. And I think that's something that we often like forget as the viewer, just because that is his nature, is to worry about others, whether it be like Zenitsu or Inosuke. Tanjiro is finally getting the chance to do his own like professional development, and I love that for him.
Yeah.
The moment with the wives was really sweet. They're not big characters, and again, all of this is anime original, but I liked how formal he was with them. And they even call that, and they're like, you don't need to speak to us like that.
Yeah.
And it's just how he is, even if he's a little country bumpkin, which is really cute.
Yeah.
He's trying his best to be as formal as possible. Just really sweet.
There's a lot of respect there. And I love that they were like, oh, you're looking older, like you're growing into a man. And I was like, no, stop. He's not allowed to keep growing up. I'm like watching my child grow up. Not actually. I'm not an actual mom. But really, really just some sweet moments between the four of them, and just really enjoyed all of that content that we got. I wanna kind of shift over. There's a couple scenes that was away from Tengen's training. So let's talk about these two scenes. So first one was kind of big-ish conversation between Sanemi and Obanai, where they did kind of meet up and discuss what they saw with the Infinity Castle, which a few of us were kind of wondering if that was going to get brought up again, because adding that to the anime in the first episode, people were worried that might cause a plot hole, just because it's adding to the anime, and it's a very big plot point, the Infinity Castle obviously is. I think everyone knows that. So having them kind of talk about it and bring it up was interesting. They also just kind of talked about the future and what things are looking like, that they are feeling it's a calm before a storm, and then challenged each other to start sparring. So the backdrop of this scene, the animation, I was like, they're still, like, Ufotable still is like, this is a training arc, just watch.
I love that they put two of, like, the least approachable boys together.
Yeah.
At least so far. We haven't seen a whole lot of either of them as, like, the focal point, save for this anime original scene that was in the first episode, which was so incredible.
Yeah.
And they're, like, kind of a fun dynamic that we're getting, like, some more kind of original scenes with, because it's not the first two that I would think to put together out of all of them, because they're both kind of, like, headstrong and sarcastic, and I don't know, like, I guess that I don't see it really going well, kind of like how I can't really imagine, like, Giyu and Shinobu again. Little different, little bit of a different dynamic, but I'm like, Am I surprised that this conversation ends with them deciding that they're gonna fight and call it like training? No.
I mean, I don't know if they're actually gonna fight. I feel like they have a certain amount of respect for each other that indicates them wanting to beat the crap out of each other. And I think that's something that only two of them can understand.
Yeah. As they said in the conversation, they know something's coming up, and they also mentioned that none of the Slayers that they've trained so far, they think can take on an upper rank.
Yeah.
Now, the timing of this is a little weird because you would assume that, like, at this point, they're training kind of, you know, Sky Zenitsu. I don't think they think that of them. I think that those ones at least have some potential to them. Maybe not as much as, like, we as an audience think they do, but they don't think that these Slayers are really going to be helpful. And so what's their option? They're needing to get stronger. They're needing to manifest their marks. That's the whole point of them doing this, right?
Yeah.
So how are they going to do that if these Slayers aren't even worthy of fighting upper moons to them? So they gotta spar. They gotta do their own sparring to get stronger themselves. And I'm sure a Hashira versus a Hashira would be a pretty tough fight.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think we're going to get to see that in some anime original content
yeah.
I hope so.
Next week, yeah.
I hope so. That would be pretty cool.
That would be pretty cool. I mean, we saw some sparring in the OP.
That's true.
Between two Hashira. So I liked this scene. I like that it brought up the fact that they were there again and that they're thinking about it and that they're not just brushing it off as just a weird thought, that they're like, hey, like, what happened? Are these demons like hiding? Are they gathering? Are they gonna like attack us all at once? Like they're pondering what that means, and that's good. That's helpful to the story. The other little scene away from Tengen's training that I wanted to talk about was Giyu and Tanjiro, and I loved this scene because, first of all, I think we mentioned this last week because we got to see the soba eating contest. That was like one tiny little panel. It was like a side panel, and it just showed that they did do it. And then, of course, in the episode last week, we kind of got a little bit, just like a tiny bit expansion on it where they had their little conversation and stuff. But this time we get to see, you know, a full-on conversation between the two of them where Tanjiro completely missed that Giyu was about to tell him that he'll join in on training, and Giyu understands that by now. I think he's like, okay, I'm gonna mess with him a little bit. But also, he's quite literally throwing in the towel because he is essentially saying he wants to join the training. And he's like, okay, Tanjiro, just eat these 2 more plates, or whatever they called them, and you win. And it was clear that he was not trying to get out of the training anymore and that he genuinely wanted Tanjiro to win. And this was just such a sweet scene between the two of them.
It was sweet, but my boy's gonna explode. Which is an improvement over him never getting to eat his soup in the past.
He is getting all the food that he missed out on in the first 2 seasons. I'm gonna just show this to the camera because this is my new favorite eye catcher from the cutscenes.
So cute.
Tanjiro is taking a nap while Giyu is like... Giyu could have kept going, 100%.
Oh, yeah.
He was very nonchalant about it. He was like the guy from the Nathan's hot dog eating contest.
Did you hear that guy quit?
Honestly, he's won for so many years. It's like, it's fine with me. But no, I didn't. No, he's eaten a lot of noodles. Both of them are.
Yeah,
Both of them are.
It's a lot of carbs. I would be napping like Tanjiro too.
Oh, yeah.
So many carbs.
He deserves the nap too. So.
Yeah, he does.
One nappy boy coming up. Yeah, I thought this scene was really cute. I think it's nice that we get to see Tanjiro in what doesn't feel like his natural element anymore, because for so long and for so many hours now, we've seen Tanjiro in battle mode.
Yeah.
So it's finally nice to see like what Tanjiro might have looked like with his family, because this is his newfound family. So it's really nice to be able to see that he is enjoying life as it is, and maybe, you know, this gives us a glimpse to look at what it could have been with his actual family.
We're just really getting to see, like you mentioned earlier, see him be like the little brother or the younger one. He's always protecting those around him, and we're finally getting to see him kind of be like, even just that eye catcher. I feel like Giyu is like, he's just sitting there like babysitting him. He's like, I'm just letting him take a nap, but I'm watching over him, make sure he stays safe. You know, like that's how it feels to me.
Yeah.
And I love that. Like, Tanjiro deserves being protected because at the end of the day, he is just a child. He is literally, at this point, he is 16, but 16 is so young. Like, what were we doing when we were 16, right? I don't even remember what I was
working
doing.
at Applebee's.
I was working at
Driver's
Olive
ed
Garden.
class.
I was working at Olive Garden. Oh man, it's just fun to see the dynamic shift because we haven't seen Zenitsu and Inosuke in a little while, and I know we're gonna meet up with them soon, but it's fun to see him interact with these other characters where he gets to be more of the protected rather than the protector. Mm-hmm. It's a fun shift. Speaking of Tanjiro though, he went into his little POW mode again, explaining to these other Slayers what it's like fighting an Upper Moon. Mm-hmm. I love his description, and it's like, okay, dude. Because he's, like, happily saying, like, you hear a pound before you even can move. You've been slashed. And then he's like, but if you're still alive, that means you were able to react.
And they're all looking like...
They're like, I don't want to be in this position ever.
They're like, get a load of this guy.
Well, then he's even like, and then you get hit again, and then this time you hear a crunch, and then he's like... It's like, because he always breaks bones, like
every
his
time.
foot. And it's like, it's so funny that he can look back. And like, my thought when he said like the crunch was it went back to Swordsmith's village when his foot got like completely destroyed while he was running, because he was running for his life in that moment.
Yeah.
Like, he was out of sorts. He was getting wrecked. And so it's kind of like crazy, but also fun to see him be able to like look back on that and just be like, and then like, you know, sometimes if enough oxygen gets cut off from your brain, you just, and then they're like, okay, all right, we're done talking to you about this. You're just you're on a different level than us.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see how different Tanjiro is from the rest of the Slayers. Obviously, we talked about like his main character energy and stuff like that, but it's important that I think we note these differences like this because Tanjiro wants to grow from here. He wants to do better, whereas it seems like these other Slayers just want to make it through each battle. And I think there's just like a difference in his personality in that way.
Yeah, I don't know if they're like wrong for that. I think that most normal people would just hope to make it out alive.
Yeah.
But Tanjiro is not like most people.
I mean, I don't think most people could look back on a battle that, just looking back on Swords of Village arc, not only was that battle extremely hard on him physically, it was hard on him mentally.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that was a battle that was really crazy, and he is, like, already back kind of, like, to his happy self. You know, he's able to kind of push past that. Well, I think most of us can sit here and say, like, we'd probably want to stay in bed for a little while longer and be like, I don't want to train. I need a few months to, like,
Yep.
What just happened to me, you know? But he's very happy to train because he has a lot of very high-reaching goals. And, of course, we did get to see him, you know, a little bit more serious at times, like when he was talking to the wives and, you know, he was like, I promise I'll defeat Muzan, because they were like, you got to do it, like, so that our husband can finally relax and that we can have a, like, our lives can truly be retired, because they were kind of implying that, like, he was never going to fully retire until there was literally nothing to fight. And Tengen mentioned it to him. He was like, they're just going to keep coming unless we defeat Muzan. And Tengen was like, I'm counting on you.
Yeah.
He's got a lot on his shoulders. So to see him be able to continue that, like, positive spirit is really nice. It's what I love about him, you know.
I would give him the same advice I'd give Eren Yeager. No Tatakai.
No Tatakai. Not today.
It is fun to see him smiling and happy. Mm-hmm. It feels like it's been a while since we've seen that.
Mm-hmm.
Because he went through a lot in Swordsman Village.
Oh, yes. Just as he did in Entertainment District.
Yeah.
And in the Mugen Train.
Yeah. And in Season 1. It's just been, you know, he's a shonen protagonist. Like,
what are you going to do?
He's just getting hit with trauma left and right. But that being said, the, like, little final bit of training with Tengen was a lot of fun. Again, we keep mentioning this. I'm just going to throw out, we're going to talk about it in a minute, but this entire episode was almost entirely anime original content, which I have seen a lot of people on Twitter that are getting a little bit nervous about that. However, and it's a slippery slope to go down when you go that far off of the source material, which UFO Table's never really done before. Everything seems very intentional so far. Everything seems really good. And for those of you who are like, well, this episode is boring because it's just training, please remember this is the Hashira training arc. And please enjoy it while it lasts. Just enjoy it while it lasts. You'll thank me later. That being said, Tengen decides to switch it up a little bit and instead of them just doing like their running drills and everything, he takes them to a mountain, waits until the sun goes down, and pretends to be a demon, which was so funny just hearing his voice like echo through the trees. He's telling all of them that their mission is to defeat him as if he's a demon. Tanjiro gets a little bit more. He also is supposed to protect all of them. He kind of failed at it. But I like to think that Tengen and Tanjiro are kind of natural enemies because Tanjiro relies very heavily on his sense of smell, and he cannot smell Tengen. He has to find him with his eyes. So this scene was amazing, though. This was, spoiler alert, my favorite moment of the episode because I loved seeing Tanjiro step in and get to spar a little bit with Tengen and hold his own. Of course, Tengen is retired with missing an arm, and Tanjiro couldn't, like, defeat him. But he's able to keep up with his speed, and all the other Slayers are watching, and they say, wow, we're witnessing two people spar who have fought an upper moon and survived.
Mm-hmm.
What a scene.
It was really cool. And obviously the last time we saw Tengen in action, this is him still going pretty easy on these kids. Mm-hmm. Easy being relative, but also he's retired and only has one arm. There's only comparatively so much he can do versus what we saw in Entertainment District, and there was a lot going on in the Entertainment District.
Yeah.
This is just Tengen. There's like no other like external factors like contributing to this, and it's cool to see him move as a shinobi because what's interesting is like obviously shinobi are like very quiet, undetectable. That's why Tanjiro's having a hard time seeing him like in this moonlit scene, but he's the sound Hashira too, which is like kind of an interesting contradiction, and I feel like we saw a little bit more of that in Entertainment District.
Yeah.
Some of like the manipulation of that sound. This is silence, which can definitely tie back into that theme, but it's like, for me, this felt almost more like watching like a true shinobi move. Yeah. Which was pretty awesome, and like the speed that he was like creeping up behind them, it's like, Minato Uzumaki who? Like, this guy is Let me see that shadow clone jutsu. I'll take the sexy jutsu next.
Harem no jutsu. Why am I too good at that? That's just disgusting.
Oni,
Just so you guys know, because I laugh a lot on this podcast, the thing that we do beforehand to test the sound is make me laugh. Yeah. So.
Gotta do it to him.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that being said, this is really cool, and it did remind me a lot of Naruto. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna bring up Naruto. No surprise. And I thought this was just amazing to watch him move, to watch the Slayers kind of be a little impressed by Tanjiro's ability, and it was a clear reminder of who's really going to be at the front of this fight. Now, you guys kind of talked about the fight itself, but I want to talk about the aftermath of this fight, because what happened was Tanjiro inspired all of these Slayers, even though they knew that they were not like A1, Day 1, Tier 1 here. They knew that they would be support. And I think that that's something that's super important, is like, you're not always going to be on the front line, but you may be someone who has a trickle-down effect eventually. And I think that's what's important, is like, demon slaying is a team sport.
Yeah, we're once again seeing the Tanjiro effect. And a part of me feels like Tengen kept him in this training as long as he did because he knew Tanjiro had the ability to motivate the other Slayers. Because as we touched on at the beginning, he heard those two talking about wanting to be able to skip out just to go on patrol, right? Yeah. And I think Tengen is, well, he's happy to have Tanjiro there. I think that Tanjiro was clearly able to pass a while ago, but he specifically kept him there until these Slayers start to say, like, we might not ever reach your level, but we believe the Hashira, that Tanjiro, that they not only have the capability of defeating upper moons as they already have, but that they could be the ones to defeat Muzan. They were able to see that, and I think Tengen kind of almost used Tanjiro a little bit as, like, he knew that they were going to see that and go, okay, we got to work harder. Yeah. So I really, really enjoyed that.
I believe Tanjiro can save the world.
Bum, 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 bum.
But yeah, I mean, the Tanjiro effect is strong in It has been throughout this entire show, as we've talked about over and over again. That being said, it is finally time for him to move on. They're doing these sit-ups, and Tanjiro's just standing with Tengen and his wives watching, like, all right, he's not only moving on, he's been promoted to teacher, apparently. Tengen's like, you know you're good, right? And Tanjiro's just like, thank you.
Aww.
It's so cute. But he moves on. We say goodbye to Tengen, and we close out with him going to the next Hashira. As we walk into this dojo, every single Slayer is once again laying on the ground, unconscious or out of it, and there's one. And we see Muichiro. Muichiro is next, and he is being as harsh as ever on these others. I think it goes to show that even though he's changed because he got his memories back, I think he's a different person than what he was before.
Yeah.
And so he still has that very strict side to him. That's what I got from that.
He's still a bratty Gen Z, and I stand it.
He really is. He's like, interesting. I'm choosing violence today.
I mean, he literally told him, he's like, you would have been dead 3 times now.
And he's like literally younger than the people that he's fighting.
He's
too.
14.
He's a baby.
He's a child. He's more of a child than Tanjiro.
I would not want to run into him in a Sephora, I'll tell you what.
Do you even know what a moisturizer is?
Oh, Lord. Oh, man. Yeah, he's definitely sassy. Looking forward to seeing him next week, though. Of course, we're gonna get to revisit Muichiro next week. That being said, real quick, we're gonna talk about what they adapted this week, because this is kind of an interesting little tidbit, and we're gonna do this every week. We decided to kind of do it because they're obviously adding a lot more content this season compared to the ones previous to this. I mean, like Swordsman's Village, they added like maybe a minute here and there, and then the season finale had quite a bit, but it was pretty much like strictly the manga. But Hashira Training has already added so much, so we've been looking it up, and this episode adapted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 panels. Not chapters, not pages. Panels.
So yeah, source material here was only 5 panels long, and they made an entire episode out of it.
Tanjiro has fully recovered, and he's fully participating in the Hashira training he long hoped for. Hey, long time no see. I heard you fought an upper-ranked demon again. You're lucky to still be in one piece. Now let's knock that sluggish body awake. Okay, I'll give it my all. Oh my, you finally came. Eat up, that's the wives. After about 10 days, he got permission to go to the site of the next Hashira.
That's it.
That's it. That's all we got.
That's all, folks.
Yeah, like I said earlier, I think that all the stuff that we got in this episode was very intentional, and none of it felt out of place. None of it felt like it was just unneeded. It was a lot of fluff, but I think it's good fluff. And I think people that that find it boring, that are like, oh, come on, let's get to it, you know? I really, really urge you to just like enjoy just like this training and just this fluff, because we haven't really gotten that much this entire show, and we're heading into the final battle. Mm-hmm. Do you think there's gonna be fluff in the final battle?
Nah, anime is like a s'more. You want just the right amount of fluff. You got too big of a marshmallow, you're gonna have an awful, s'more. But a good s'more leaves you wanting s'more. So, to what I say here is that this is the right amount. This is just the right amount, and yeah, you can call it a filler season, sure, but also the backstory that we're getting, the relationship building we're getting is going to be so important in the long run that this really is going to put Demon Slayer in a new category. Mm-hmm. I think this is really going to show that this piece of art has a very high caliber to it for a reason. Even if the story itself is simple, it may not be like an Attack on Titan complexity, but it still has a lot of value in it.
I don't know if I have anything else to add to that.
No,
I think it's well said.
Yeah. And it's important to note too, this isn't a filler arc, because filler is something that you can skip.
That's true. Is it filler in the sense that it's just not manga canon? Yes. I would actually say that this is more like anime canon content,
Yeah.
then I would really say filler. But even if you did call it filler, it really feels so intentional. We already mentioned that we feel like Gotoge has to be probably pretty closely involved because of how well this embellishes on the characters that we already know and love. The episode with Rengoku in the Mugen Train arc was also like really tastefully done, and this was very, very short, but everybody loves Tengen. He's
Tengen's
a crowd
fan
pleaser.
favorite. Yeah.
Absolutely. So it's like, why wouldn't we take the time that we can to elaborate a little bit more on his story and what he's doing in his retirement, and like now back here, and then it'll probably be the same next week as well with Muichiro, who is somebody's favorite, not mine.
None of ours, but it's okay. We know a lot of people love Muichiro. We love Muichiro. He's just not necessarily our favorite.
Jenna, looking at you.
Love you, Jenna. And all the Muichiro stands out there. But Demon Slayer has always been a story that focuses heavily on character, and that's what we're getting this season. We're getting a lot of character development, so it's going to be a lot of fun. That being said, I think we're finishing up the episode part. Are we all good?
Yeah.
Move into favorite moments?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I kind of spoiled it. My favorite moment was obviously just when Tengen kind of took them to that combat training. I was going to say something that I forgot to say, but when he, one of the Slayers was like, there's no way we can defeat Hashira. And he, like, got up next to him and whispered in his ear, you get to say that to a demon? I was like, when can it be me?
When will it finally be my turn?
When will it be me? And he whispered.
When will she get her white-haired meat?
Ow! One order of white-haired meat for Hannah, please. Oh my god.
No, that whole scene was great. It was just really fun to see. And Tanjiro was, like, super into it, too. He was very on alert. He had his alert face of his eyebrows super raised, and his eyes are just like, I'm like, oh, there he is! There's the Tanjiro that we're used to. With the sharp edges.
That was probably the best scene in the episode, in my opinion. It was really, really good, and definitely a contender for my favorite, too. But I'll pick another one. Kind of controversial yet brave, but I actually really liked the scene of, like, the two NPCs patrolling. I like the creepy scenes, and that was another addition where it's like, we're not totally sure what's going on here. But it was really beautifully animated, and I feel like it was a play on a scene that we've watched before in the show. In season 1, when Tanjiro went to that village where all the girls were disappearing, it definitely felt like that again.
Yeah.
Like a callback, and so I'm curious to see what might come of it, but obviously the ending of, like, the disappearance in this scene went a little bit differently, which I also thought was fun.
I think I'm gonna actually call out a moment of OST, because when Tengen was actually introduced, I loved hearing his OST again. It was so cool, because we kind of opened the show with it, and I thought that was, like, such a cool thing to, like, kind of call back to the entertainment district, and it felt a little bit, like, more flashy and more of those vibes. So I thought it was really cool to kind of get, like, a sound foreshadowing bit, if you will.
All good stuff. Good episode. Looking forward to next week. It's so much fun not really knowing what's going to happen. Even though we're manga readers, we don't know where it's going to end, but it's been a fun few weeks, and looking forward to the next 5.
I think so.
Yeah.
Well, that is it for today's episode. If you liked this episode and you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like the video and leave a comment what you thought of the episode. Just remember, keep it respectful, be nice to each other, as always. If you are listening to our podcast version, we are, of course, available on all platforms. There's Spotify, there's Apple Podcasts. Make sure you download the episode, give us a 5-star rating, and you can also leave a comment in our Q&A that we could answer in a future episode. And we are also on all social media. We are on Instagram and TikTok at Hashira Half Hour and X at Hashira Half. And with that, we'll see you all next week. Umai!
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 Thank you all so much for listening to today's episode. Just a reminder, if you want your very own Tokyo Treat box, just click on the link in the description below and type in Hashira for $5 off of your first box. So you get a little bit of a hookup with us.